for more on Assange. Tim Dawson, the Deputy General Secretary of the International Federation of Journalists, joins me now live from London. Good to have you on the programme with us. Now, first of all, we saw these very emotional scenes of Assange being hugged by his wife and father as he touched down in Australia. It's a big moment for him, surely, and of course, his supporters.
Yes, I mean, clearly he's had the most terrible experience over a period of time that most of us can't really imagine enduring this kind of thing. And I should imagine that their reunion is the sweetest thing it's possible to imagine. I won't pretend. I mean, my interest in this is, I have a humanitarian interest in Julian Assange. I wish him to lead a happy and free life, but it's always been the implications for media freedom that this case, has posed that have been what motivates me. And as well as freedom for Julian Assange, I think a large dark shadow has been lifted from the backs of journalists all across the world, and it's that I will be particularly celebrating.
Right, well, let's dig into those press freedoms then. Now, Stella Assange says her husband's case was an attack on journalism. He shouldn't have been jailed. The similar statement has also come from his lawyer. So is this then, would you say, I mean, you talked about this dark shadow being lifted, but is this then a win for journalism, for freedom of information?
It absolutely is a win for journalism and for free information. The risk here was that the charges that Assange was being sought for all relate to processes that journalists carry out every day. Finding wrongdoing and criminality, finding a whistleblower willing to talk, willing to share evidence of that wrongdoing and criminality, and then helping the process of removing that evidence so that it can be published. These are things that journalists do every day. And whether you approve of Julian Assange or dislike Julian Assange, had he been prosecuted, it would have had a terrible effect for journalists all over the world. And while, that he had to plead guilty to a single charge is of some concern, I think it's very hard to imagine the United States, or indeed anybody else, using this kind of legal instrument to pursue a journalist anytime in the near future. For which reason, as I say, I think media freedom campaigners all over the world should be very happy today.
But what can organisations or media campaigners do? How can they build upon the outcome of the case of Julian Assange now?
Well, it has generated an extraordinary amount of energy, and really, I think books and PhD theses will be written on the campaign in the future. But clearly, the involvement of the Australian government has been very important. There has been all sorts of diplomatic efforts, of which we only know part. There have been street protests. There have been lobbying of members of parliament. All of that has been quite astonishing. It's been a global campaign. But as Julian Assange walks free tonight, we know that Evan Gershkovich is in a Russian court facing ridiculous trumped-up charges of spying. And he is only one of hundreds of journalists in prison all over the world. So my hope would be that recognising what can happen when people campaign, when people work together, when people think intelligently about how we apply pressure, then perhaps some of that can be released to campaigning for other journalists who are facing terrible jeopardy, even if, for the most part, their names are far less well known than Julian Assange's.
Indeed. Well, Tim Dawson, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for highlighting the rights of journalists and their plight. Thank you so much.
Great to be with you.